Hello, I am Tarık Toros. Welcome to What's Happening in Turkey. The end of the world as we know it. Recent events in the Middle East and the United States have changed everything. Israel launched a direct military strike against Iran, a dramatic escalation in regional hostilities. At least 20 senior Iranian commanders were reportedly killed, and key nuclear facilities were hit. Some scientists working on Iran's nuclear program were assassinated in their homes. Iran retaliated from over 20,000 kilometers away, launching precision missile strikes on critical infrastructure in Tel Aviv. But the crisis didn't end there. Airspace over Lebanon, Syria and Iraq is now completely shut down. All commercial flights across much of the Middle East have been suspended. A situation not seen since the Gulf War era. In the United States, domestic tensions are also surging. Donald Trump, who is again the Republican nominee for president, came to power promising peace. He has repeatedly claimed he could end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours. But now, alongside unresolved conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, Iran has been added to the list of global flashpoints. This week's most shocking moment in U.S. politics came at a press conference in California. Democratic Senator Alex Padilla tried to question Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, but in an unprecedented move, security forces physically restrained him, pushing him to the ground and handcuffing him on live television. The footage has gone viral and sparked a wave of public debate. Some say this incident reflects months of increasing political pressure. Others see it as symbolic of the collapse of civil discourse in America. Back to Ukraine. The latest round of peace talks in Istanbul, a diplomatic initiative hosted by Turkey, ended without results. Meanwhile, Ukraine intensified its military operations, launching drone strikes that destroyed dozens of Russian bombers stationed deep within Russian territory. The war is now entering its fourth year, and there is little hope for a quick resolution. Israel's recent attacks on Iran are no longer seen as a narrow response to the Hamas-led incursion on 7th of October 2023. It's becoming clear they were part of a longer-term strategy, months in the making, and carried out with logistical and intelligence support from the United States. This may have triggered the outbreak of a broader regional war. After Iran struck Tel Aviv, the Israeli Defense Forces posted a stark message on social media. Israeli civilians are currently being targeted by the Iranian regime. The world cannot stay silent. But to many observers, this statement carried a bitter irony. The international community has largely stayed silent while over 35,000 Palestinians, many of them civilians, have been killed in Gaza since October 2023. We are witnessing a moment of profound transformation. In this new world order, the values that once anchored global governance, human rights, diplomacy, and international law, seem to be fading. Power politics, military capability, and expansionist ideologies now dominate. Civil rights? They become slogans used by the powerful, only when convenient. Erdoğan is engineering his own downfall. In Turkey, President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's government is growing increasingly anxious. The regional chaos is unsettling the very foundations of his rule. Erdoğan's primary objective is simple: survival in power. For the past 8 months, he has been in back-channel negotiations with the Kurdish political movement, particularly with the pro-Kurdish DEM party, which has faced waves of repression, arrests, and shutdowns. But instead of offering meaningful concessions, Erdoğan is attempting to use these talks as leverage to reinforce his own authority. Why now? A major reason is the changing dynamics in Syria. Erdoğan wants not only the Kurdish militant group PKK to disarm, but also demands the disarmament of all Kurdish factions in Syria, Iraq, and Iran, including the US-backed Syrian Democratic Forces in northern Syria. This demand, however, is detached from reality in the Middle East. In fact, Kurdish authorities in northern Syria recently reached a tentative agreement with the new Damascus regime. It's a de facto recognition deal, and they've already begun implementing it. This undermines Erdoğan's Syria policy and his long-standing objective to establish a Turkish-controlled buffer zone across northern Syria. Back at home, Erdoğan made a dangerous miscalculation. He had Istanbul's popular opposition mayor, Ekrem İmamoğlu, arrested on politically motivated charges. The arrest sparked mass protests across the country, echoing the Gezi Park protests of 2013. Erdoğan's attempt to crush dissent only amplified public anger. Instead of seeking national reconciliation, he chose confrontation. Now, the question many are asking is, could this be beginning of Erdoğan's end? Even international observers are taking note. In Foreign Affairs, US-based Turkish analyst Henry Barkey published a piece titled The End of Erdoğan. His assessment was blunt. Erdoğan's crackdown has failed. At home, he is losing support. Abroad, he is losing credibility. According to Barkey, Erdoğan's system, built over 2 decades, has entered the final phase of authoritarian populism. And it's now collapsing under its own weight. Erdoğan, Barkey concludes, is engineering his own undoing. Losing his grip. Prominent Turkish commentator Levent Gültekin, once part of Erdoğan's media circle, made waves with a troubling claim. He said that someone close to Erdoğan recently met with him and came away deeply concerned. According to this source, Erdoğan often appears confused, loses track of conversations, and seems mentally disengaged, signs, Gültekin suggested, of cognitive decline. He went further, I honestly don't know who is running the country right now. Gültekin speculated that Erdoğan might avoid live public appearances during the next election campaign, instead relying solely on scripted videos and pre-approved content. The presidential palace quickly denied these claims. But Erdoğan's avoidance of unscripted interviews is well known. He now speaks almost exclusively via teleprompter, and the few interviews he gives are tightly choreographed. Questions are pre-selected, and answers are later edited before broadcast. This is no longer just physical exhaustion. Many believe we are seeing signs of mental fatigue, and international analysts are paying close attention. Let's be clear. The world is changing before our eyes. Not just in the Middle East, but also in Turkey. The old power structures, regional alliances, and domestic strategies are crumbling. This moment reminds us of a simple truth. Sometimes the very system built to preserve a leader becomes the engine of his downfall. I am Tarık Toros. You've been watching What's Happening in Turkey. See you next week.